Every morning, before the world asks anything from you, something invisible happens. Your mind wakes up before your body does, and in those first few minutes, it decides who you will be for the rest of the day. Not your boss, not your situation, not your past. Your first thoughts decide your direction. Most people don't lose their life in one big mistake. They lose it slowly, by starting each morning the same way, rushing, reacting, repeating. If you listen to the wrong voice in the morning, you live the wrong life by night. So listen carefully, because what you hear now will shape who you become. Most people wake up thinking their problem is their life, the job, the money, the relationship, the pressure waiting outside the door. But very rarely is life the real issue. It's the noise inside the mind that makes everything feel heavier than it actually is. A cluttered mind turns small challenges into mountains and simple decisions into stress. You can have opportunities in front of you and still feel trapped if your thoughts are running in every direction. Clarity is not about fixing everything at once. It's about creating enough inner space to breathe, to think, to choose instead of react. Think about how quickly the world reaches for you in the morning. Before your feet touch the ground, demands start knocking. Notifications pull your attention. Other people's opinions slip into your head. Worries from yesterday return as if they never left. Without realizing it, you allow your mind to be rented out to everything and everyone except yourself. And when your mind is crowded, even silence feels uncomfortable. You sit still, but inside you are rushing. That constant mental movement drains energy long before the day truly begins. A clear mind is not empty. It is intentional. It knows what deserves attention and what does not. When the mind is clear, you are not pushed around by every thought that shows up. You observe it, you choose, you respond instead of reacting. Life still brings challenges, but they arrive one at a time, not all at once. Clarity slows the inner speed. It gives you control over where your focus rests. And where focus goes, your energy follows. Without clarity, energy leaks everywhere, leaving you tired even when you haven't done much. Many people believe they need more motivation to change their life. But motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes like weather. Clarity, on the other hand, stays. When you know why you are doing something, you don't need to feel excited about it. You simply do it. A clear mind doesn't ask, "Do I feel like this today?" It asks, "Does this matter?" And when something matters, the mind stops arguing. Decisions become simpler. Actions become cleaner. Doubt loses its grip. There is a quiet confidence that comes from mental clarity. Not loud, not arrogant, just steady. It feels like standing on solid ground instead of shifting sand. You stop second-guessing every step. You stop replaying conversations in your head. You stop carrying unnecessary weight. That confidence doesn't come from success or praise. It comes from knowing where you stand with yourself. When your mind is clear, you trust your direction, even when the path is uncertain. Clarity also changes how you see time. When the mind is cluttered, time feels like it's chasing you. There's always something undone, something late, something missing. But when the mind is calm, time feels wider. You move through moments instead of being dragged by them. You give full attention to one thing, then move to the next. The pressure softens, not because life got easier, but because your mind stopped fighting everything at once. A clear mind does not mean you will never feel anxious or unsure. It means those feelings no longer control you, they pass through without staying too long. You learn to sit with discomfort without letting it define you. You realize that peace is not the absence of problems, but the ability to face them without inner chaos. And once you experience that kind of calm, you understand something important. You don't need a perfect life to feel strong. You need a mind that knows how to stay grounded, even when life is loud. Most people misunderstand discipline because they met it the wrong way. They met it as pressure, as control. as something forced on them by rules, parents, deadlines, or fear. So now, whenever discipline shows up, the mind resists. It feels like punishment, it feels like loss of freedom. But discipline is not here to take something from you. It is here to protect what matters. It is the quiet agreement you make with yourself that your future deserves better than your excuses today. Think about how carefully you treat something you truly value. You don't call it restriction when you lock your door at night. You call it care. You don't call it oppression. When you save money for something important, you call it responsibility. Discipline works the same way. It is not about being hard on yourself. It is about being honest with yourself. It is the difference between saying I want a better life and living in a way that proves you mean it. Every time you follow through on a small commitment, something subtle shifts inside you. Your mind takes note. It says, maybe quietly, maybe without words, I can rely on you. That trust is rare. Many people trust strangers more than they trust themselves. They promise, they delay, they explain, they repeat. Over time, self-belief erodes not because they failed once, but because they broke their word too many times. Discipline repairs that trust, one kept promise at a time. There will be days when discipline feels heavy, days when emotions argue loudly, when comfort calls your name. In those moments, discipline does not shout back. It doesn't insult you, it simply waits. It reminds you that feelings are temporary but habits are permanent. Acting only when you feel ready keeps you trapped in the same loop. Acting because you decided to respect yourself breaks that loop. That choice, repeated, changes the direction of a life. Discipline gives structure to your energy. Without it, effort is scattered. You start many things and finish few. You rely on mood to guide action, and mood is easily influenced. Discipline narrows your focus. It tells your energy where to go. Like water channeled through a narrow path, it gains strength. Progress stops feeling accidental and starts feeling intentional. You stop drifting through days and begin shaping them. There is a calm that comes from disciplined living. Not excitement, not intensity. Calm, the calm of knowing that you are not at war with yourself, that you don't need to negotiate every morning, that your actions are not constantly up for debate. This calm reduces mental noise, it frees up attention, it gives space for creativity, patience, and depth. Discipline, when practiced with self-respect, creates freedom instead of taking it away. Over time, discipline changes your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who finishes. You stop hoping for better outcomes and start expecting them because your behavior supports that expectation. This is not about being perfect. It is about being consistent enough to become dependable in your own eyes. And when you respect yourself, your standards rise naturally, not out of pressure, but out of pride in the person you are becoming. From a very young age. You are trained to look outside yourself for permission. Permission to speak, permission to try, permission to become. You learn to read faces before you read your own feelings. You adjust your tone, your choices, your dreams, based on how they might land on others. Slowly, without realizing it, you hand over the steering wheel of your life. And one day you wake up exhausted, not because life is hard, but because you've been carrying everyone else's expectations while ignoring your own direction. Approval feels safe because it feels familiar. When people agree with you, the mind relaxes. When they praise you, doubt goes quiet for a moment. But that silence is rented, not owned. The moment approval fades, uncertainty rushes back in. So you chase it again. You explain more. You justify more. You shrink or stretch yourself to fit the room. And the more you do this, the harder it becomes to hear your own voice. Not because it disappeared, but because it's been ignored for too long. What makes this even heavier is the truth most people avoid admitting. The same people you are trying to impress are often unsure themselves. They are figuring things out as they go, hiding confusion behind confidence, fear behind opinions. When you look closely, you realize no one has a complete map. Everyone is walking with partial answers. Yet you treat their reactions as final judgments, as if they know something about your life that you don't. That belief quietly steals courage. Growth rarely looks acceptable at first. It looks awkward, it looks unfinished. It looks like trying something before you fully know how. And that makes people uncomfortable. Not because you are wrong, but because your movement reminds them of what they are avoiding. So they question you. They label you. They offer advice you didn't ask for. Not always with bad intentions, but often from their own limits. If you let those voices decide your speed, you will always move at the pace of the most cautious person around you. There is a certain loneliness that comes when you stop seeking approval. Not the loneliness of isolation, but the loneliness of independence. Fewer people will clap early. Fewer will understand your silence, your focus, your choices. But in that quiet space, something important happens. You begin to hear yourself again. Your decisions start coming from alignment instead of fear. You don't need to announce every move. You don't need agreement to proceed. You start building from the inside out. Approval trains you to perform. Purpose trains you to commit. Performance asks, how does this look? Purpose asks, does this matter? When you shift that question, your energy changes. You stop wasting effort on being seen and start investing effort in becoming solid. You don't disappear, you deepen. You don't rebel, you root yourself. And that kind of grounding creates a strength that doesn't need constant validation to survive. Letting go of approval doesn't make you careless, it makes you intentional. You still listen, you still learn, but you choose whose voices earn weight. You stop confusing noise with wisdom. You realize that not every opinion deserves a seat at your table. Some opinions are just reflections of fear, habit, or comfort. When you stop reacting to them, your mind clears. Your path sharpens. Your steps feel lighter because they are finally your own. There comes a moment when you understand that your life cannot be a group decision. Advice can guide, but it cannot live for you. Applause can encourage, but it cannot sustain you. At some point, you have to choose to trust your inner sense of direction. Even when it's quiet, even when it's unpopular, that trust doesn't arrive suddenly. It grows each time you move forward without asking for permission. Each time you honor your truth without explaining it away. Every day, without realizing it, you are casting votes. Not with words, not with intentions, but with actions so small they almost feel invisible. What you do when no one is watching counts more than the big promises you make out loud. The way you begin the morning, the way you handle boredom, the way you respond to resistance. Each one is a quiet vote. Alone, they seem harmless. Together, they decide who you are becoming. The future is not surprised by where you end up. It recognizes you because you've been introducing yourself to it daily. The mind loves dramatic change because it feels heroic. But life listens to repetition. You don't become disciplined because of one strong day. You don't become unfocused because of one lazy hour. You become what you practice. Habits are like whispers that repeat themselves until they sound like facts. At first, they ask politely. Then they assume authority. Over time, they stop asking altogether. This is why small choices feel small only in the moment. Their real size is revealed later, when they've stacked into patterns you either trust or regret. When you choose effort over ease, even briefly, you are voting for strength. When you delay again and again, you are voting for comfort to stay in charge. Neither choice makes you a good or bad person, but each choice trains your nervous system. It teaches your body what to expect from you. Consistency tells your mind, this is how we operate now, and the mind adapts. It stops resisting what it sees as normal. That is how habits quietly take over, not through force but through familiarity. Many people underestimate how much momentum lives in the first few hours of the day. Morning habits are powerful because they set the tone before distractions arrive. When you win early, you walk differently through the rest of the day. You think differently, you tolerate less nonsense. One focused action in the morning casts multiple votes throughout the day. Not because the day becomes perfect, but because you carry proof that you can direct yourself. That proof changes how you face everything that follows. The future version of you is not built by motivation. It is built by defaults. What you do when you don't think, when you don't plan, when you're tired, that's your true system. Habits remove decision fatigue. They free you from endless internal debates. Instead of asking, should I? You move straight to this is what I do. That shift saves energy, and saved energy becomes growth. This is why habits are powerful. They turn effort into identity. You don't need to overhaul your entire life to change your direction. Direction changes when the majority of your votes change, not all of them, just enough. Enough days choosing movement over stagnation. Enough moments choosing presence over distraction. Enough evenings choosing preparation over chaos. The future doesn't demand perfection. It responds to patterns, and patterns are built. One quiet vote at a time, whether you're paying attention or not. Pain has a bad reputation because most people only meet it when they try to escape it. They run, they distract themselves, they stay busy, they stay numb. And the pain follows, not loudly but patiently. It waits in unfinished conversations, in delayed decisions, in the quiet moments before sleep. Pain itself is not cruel. It doesn't chase you to punish you. It stays because it has something to teach. The real damage happens when you pretend it isn't there, when you keep choosing comfort over clarity and call that peace. Avoidance feels gentle in the moment. It speaks softly. It says, not now. It says, you've had a long day. It says, you'll deal with this later. And later becomes a habit. That habit slowly shapes your life without asking your permission. You don't notice it changing you because nothing dramatic happens at once. You just feel a little less capable, a little less honest with yourself. The cost of avoidance is paid slowly, but it is always collected. There's a difference between pain that builds you and pain that drains you. The pain of effort, of learning, of growth has a direction. It moves forward. It asks something of you and gives something back. The pain of avoidance has no direction. It circles, it repeats, it grows heavier because it carries regret with it. One pain sharpens you for a moment, the other dulls you over time. When you avoid discomfort, you don't avoid pain, you just delay it and add interest. Most people don't fear pain itself, they fear what pain might say about them. They fear discovering limits. They fear failing in ways they can't explain away. So they stay in familiar discomfort instead of stepping into unfamiliar growth. Familiar pain feels safer because it's predictable. You know how to survive it. But survival is not the same as living. Growth demands a different kind of courage. The courage to be uncomfortable without becoming bitter. When you face pain directly, something unexpected happens. It loses some of its power. It becomes specific instead of overwhelming. You stop imagining it as a monster and start seeing it as information. It tells you where you need strength. It points to what matters. It reveals what you've been avoiding, not because you can't handle it, but because you haven't practiced handling it yet. Pain becomes a signal, not a sentence. Choosing the pain of discipline, honesty, and effort is an act of self-respect. It says, I trust myself enough to face this. It says, I am willing to grow even when it's uncomfortable. This choice doesn't make life easy, but it makes it clean. Problems don't pile up in the background. Emotions don't rot in silence. You deal with things while they are still manageable. You move forward carrying strength instead of unresolved weight. Every day, you are choosing which pain to live with. The pain of staying the same or the pain of changing. The pain of regret or the pain of effort. Neither choice is painless, but one choice keeps you small and the other expands you. When you stop avoiding discomfort, you stop running from yourself. And in that stillness, you begin to realize that the pain you feared was never there to break you. It was there to wake you up. At some point, you start telling yourself a story that quietly drains your strength. You say you're late. Late to start. Late to figure things out. Late compared to people your age, your friends, the versions of success you see online. That thought sits in your mind like a weight, pressing down on every idea before it even gets a chance to stand. And the longer you carry it, the more it convinces you to hesitate. But being late is not a fact, it's a feeling. And feelings are not deadlines. You didn't arrive here by accident. Every step you took, even the wrong ones, taught you something you couldn't have learned any other way. The delays shaped your awareness. The mistakes sharpened your judgment. The pauses forced you to reflect. You are not behind, you are informed. But when you label yourself as late, you treat your present moment like it's already lost. You rush or freeze. You either panic or give up. Neither one serves you. Growth doesn't ask for speed, it asks for honesty. Comparison makes the illusion stronger. You look at someone else's chapter and assume they skipped the struggle. You see outcomes without context, results without history. You don't see the nights they doubted, the suppo RT they had, the timing that worked in their favor. And yet you measure yourself against that image. This steals your focus. It pulls your eyes off your own lane. When you're busy watching others move, you forget that movement in any direction is better than standing still. The truth is, life doesn't punish late starters. It responds to committed ones. The moment you stop waiting for the perfect time, momentum begins to build. Not loudly, quietly, through small actions that don't look impressive but feel grounding. Starting now doesn't require confidence. Confidence often comes after you begin. Starting now simply requires willingness. Willingness to be imperfect. Willingness to learn while moving. Willingness to accept that clarity often follows action, not the other way around. There is a certain relief in realizing that you don't need to catch up. You need to begin. Catching up keeps you focused on the past. Beginning anchors you in the present. The present is where your power lives. Not in what you should have done, not in what you wish had happened. Right here, in the next decision. In the next step you can take without overthinking. When you stay here, pressure softens. Possibility opens. You are closer than you think. Not because success is guaranteed, but because progress compounds quickly once you stop delaying. One serious season of focused effort can change how you see yourself, not because everything suddenly works out, but because you prove something important to yourself. That you are capable of showing up. That you don't need to be rescued by timing or luck. That starting now is not an act of desperation, but an act of self-trust. Imagine meeting yourself 5 years from now. Not the version everyone else sees, not the version you show on social media, but the quiet, real version that carries every choice you made, every shortcut you took, every promise you kept or broke. That future self doesn't care about excuses. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't cry over what could have been. It only feels the weight of what actually was. And the truth is, every decision you make today is already shaping that encounter, long before you realize it. Every small choice carries a ripple. When you act with honesty, even in ways no one notices, you are laying down bricks for that future self to walk on. When you choose discipline over comfort, you are giving them armor. When you pause to reflect before reacting, you are planting seeds of patience they will one day inherit. Life does not reward intentions alone. It rewards consistency, alignment, and the courage to do the right thing when it is inconvenient. That courage is the bridge connecting you to the self you will one day respect. Regret is a quiet companion. It doesn't yell, It doesn't slam doors, it lingers in corners of the mind where choices were ignored, where action was postponed, where honesty was replaced by fear. Your future self will carry those regrets silently, heavier than any failure you could name. And yet, the same is true for the decisions you face now. Every courageous, disciplined, thoughtful action you take today becomes a gift. A light that makes tomorrow feel lighter, not heavier. The weight you carry is chosen, and choosing wisely shapes freedom. It is easy to convince yourself that small actions don't matter, that skipping a task, avoiding a conversation, or ignoring growth is harmless. But the accumulation of these tiny compromises compounds in ways that cannot be erased. Each one becomes a layer and a foundation of who you are becoming. Your future self feels it in the quiet moments, the energy that is spent, the focus that is lost, the confidence that erodes. And the inverse is equally true. Small, deliberate actions strengthen, sharpen, and expand that self without notice. Until one day, the transformation is undeniable. To honor your future self, you must act as if it is watching. Because, in truth, it is. Your body remembers your choices, your mind records your decisions, and your habits whisper what you value most. When you act with integrity, your future self is lighter, steadier, more capable of handling life's complexity. When you choose convenience over commitment, your future self inherits confusion, distraction, and fatigue. Time compounds in both directions, silently, relentlessly, and impartially. Every action is an investment, and the account is already opening. Respecting your future self does not require perfection. It requires awareness, intention, and willingness to face the small discomforts that come with growth. It asks you to do the hard things quietly, to keep promises no one witnesses, to focus when distraction calls, and to speak when silence feels safer. Every act of this kind sends a message forward: I trust you, I value you, I will not betray you. That trust becomes a steady current running through your life, carrying strength, clarity, and resilience into the version of yourself that is still waiting to meet you. Take a moment and notice how still everything is right now. The world hasn't started asking from you yet. There is a quiet space between your thoughts, a pause before the noise of the day arrives. That space is yours. It always has been. Every choice you make, every habit you build, every small act of courage begins here. Nothing outside can give you what this quiet offers: a chance to align with yourself, to measure your steps, to meet life on your own terms. Your mind has the power to carry clarity or confusion, patience or panic, strength or doubt. Which one it carries is up to you. In the subtle ways you move through this morning, no one else decides it. Your future self, your peace, your direction, they are all shaped by these small decisions you make before the world touches you. They are already listening. Remember, life doesn't demand perfection. It only responds to presence, consistency, and honesty. The path forward is rarely dramatic. It is built in quiet repetitions, in choosing the hard thing over the easy, in listening to your inner voice even when it whispers against the chaos around you. Step by step, thought by thought, moment by moment, you are creating the life that will one day feel inevitable. Not because it was easy, but because it was intentional. There is freedom in knowing that you don't have to do everything at once, and peace in knowing that you can begin exactly where you are. Every effort counts, every pause matters, every choice to face discomfort rather than avoid it is a vote for the person you want to become. Your life is not a distant dream. It is already forming in the way you live today. So carry this quiet strength with you. Let it shape your thoughts, guide your actions, and steady your heart. The world will demand many things, but your inner clarity, your grounded presence, and your trust in yourself are not negotiable. They are the soil in which everything you hope for can grow. And as the day begins, walk forward with calm certainty. Not because everything is solved, not because the path is clear, but because you are ready to meet it fully. Aware, steady, and fully yourself. This is the life that listens when you listen first. This is the life that belongs to you.